It's always so exciting to dig into a new Stephen King book. Let's have a chat about this one. What's up guys, welcome back to Unlimited Reads. My name is Chris and today I'll be doing my review of Stephen King's latest book, Fairy Tale. Now apologies for my voice, I still sound a little bit nasally, getting over this rotten cold, but I'm through the final stages, which is good. Now in my last video I did mention some first impressions I had of the book when I was excited to open my package last Tuesday, and the thing that stood out for me was the cover art is absolutely stunning on the UK edition. The stock photos online didn't do the book any justice at all. Physically in my hands, the book looks amazing. It's a really good use of colour, but unusually, I also like the US cover as well, which is quite stunning with the colour usage there. It's one of the best US covers I've ever seen, really, and eventually wouldn't mind owning the US edition as well. At the head of each chapter there are really nice illustrations by Gabriel Rodriguez and Nicholas Delort. Really good illustrations that sum up what the chapter is about, particularly with the subheadings that are used as well, which is very characteristic in the fantasy genre. When I first opened the book and leafed through it, I immediately had memories of the Dragonlance books when I was a kid. Those sort of chapters were set out the same way. There was always some sort of illustration and some subheadings that give a very, very vague indication of what's coming up in that particular chapter. So what is it about? The story is about Charlie, who we meet for the first time when he's 7 years old, when his mother dies tragically in an unfortunate accident, and in the years afterward he grows up very, very quickly, taking charge of the household as he struggles to bring his father back from the brink of despair and grief. And there are very familiar themes here explored surrounding alcoholism, which long-term Stephen King fans will recognise these themes pretty obviously. I had an instant rapport with Charlie. He carries a fair bit of guilt from past deeds that he has done, and he wants to make things right, and he wants to give back and atone for some of those sins. And I like how the book is written in the first person, which is very, very important in engaging the reader right into the story. Now, as a 17-year-old, he has a potential to be a really good sports star and go on to potentially get a scholarship at college, but his priorities change after saving the life of Mr. Bowditch, who is a reclusive old man who lives just up the street on a big house on a hill, and saves his life. And Mr. Bowditch is very, very grateful and feels indebted to Charlie, and he eventually shares his secret about a portal on his property that leads to another world. Now, Charlie also falls head over heels for Bowditch's aging German Shepherd called Radar, and she's an absolute sweetheart of a dog, and she'll steal your heart too. But Charlie, accompanied by Radar, enters this portal into another world where the people there are struck down by an evil curse, and it's up to Charlie to overcome overwhelming odds to defeat the evil and reverse what has happened to these poor people. That's all I'll reveal about the plot, because anything else will spoil it, and this is a spoiler-free review, and I don't believe in spoiling anything for anyone. Okay, so let's go through some pros, the reasons why I like the book. I thought the writing was very solid from the get-go. He instantly grabs you by the shirt and pulls you in, and you instantly fall under King's spell, where he excels at narrating small-town American life. He is the best at it, in my opinion. And as I mentioned before, it's written in the first person, which is a very, very intimate point of view, which has become one of my favourite points of view to read, because it puts you in the character's head. It is a very intimate relationship you have with the main character, and it's all through Charlie's eyes, which is really, really powerful. Radar is the animal companion to Charlie, and she's a real treat. She gets plenty of page time, and I really love what Charlie ultimately does for her in the book. The relationship between Charlie and his dad is absolutely perfectly executed. It's very touching at times, and Charlie's character himself, I like some of his traits. He's compassionate, he's righteous, he's loving, he's heroic and selfless, and the justice that he dishes out in the book to unsavoury types is very, very justified. And the first 60% of the book is near perfect in my opinion. It's very, very well written, and King is at his absolute best here. Now, the ending was probably one of the most satisfying I've read of King's work. Now, as Stephen King fans know, Stephen King has come under fire from his endings in recent years, but I have to say he's nailed this ending perfectly. It ties everything up, it makes you feel very, very satisfied, and when you close the book you think, yeah, I really enjoyed that ending. Now, I do have a favourite passage in the book as well, which is a fine example of how Stephen King still has the gift, and I'm going to share that with you now. It was in the late stages of the book, in a confrontation that he has, and I'll read this now to you. I could see that red-rimmed crack running down the centre of her forehead, and as she blotted out the sky above me, screaming something, I don't know what, I put 2 bullets into it. The .45 revolver was the Polly's 22, what a shotgun is to a kid's pop gun. Her boil-infested forehead caved in like a snow crust when someone stamps on it with a heavy boot. The brown snaggles of her hair flew out in the back, along with a fan of blood. Her mouth fell open, revealing filed teeth that would no more rend and chew the flesh of children. That kind of writing is classic Stephen King, and just little snippets like that, you like that imagery so much you go back and reread it. So that's his greatest strength, is to deliver that exceptional graphic literary imagery, and it was just a treat. Alright, let's go through some cons. So I do have a gripe about things I didn't like about the book. The first one was quite frustrating for me. I had really high expectations of potentially finding a lot of Easter eggs with things that link Stephen King's multiverse together. And look, I got a taste. There are a few. Disappointingly, there weren't many. There was a heavy influence on Lovecraft and Raymond Bradbury, which was fine, and the general vague famous fairy tale references. There were some parallels to Wizard of Oz, but I was expecting a lot more and was quite disappointed. And there are a few snippets here and there, but it wasn't what I was expecting, and yeah, I felt a little bit let down by that. With the events that happen in the world of Empus, I'm pretty conflicted. I think the events could have been shorter because I felt it dragged a little bit in the last half of the book, and not much was happening, and it just sort of dragged a little bit, and I was getting impatient towards the end, so I just wanted to have things resolved a little bit quicker, in my opinion. I would have liked some flashbacks about what life was like before the curse was inflicted upon these people. Just a bit more detail about that would have been good. And I don't think the world building of the world of Empus was strong enough, in my opinion, if I have to pick on it for something. It just wasn't quite up to scratch, and I know Stephen King is capable of doing really good world building, but was a little bit off, in my opinion. But they're only basic gripes. The book was really good. I did expect a little better and was a little bit unbalanced, I think, because the first half of the book is set in in the real world, and I would have been happy to stay in the real world with Charlie for a long time. And then the events, I prefer the events in the real world than the fantasy world, so it was a little bit unbalanced in my opinion there. But even though I've had a bit of a gripe about it, I still recommend reading the book because the writing is very powerful. Overall, it was enjoyable, but just a couple of little gripes there. But I do like to be honest in my reviews. But please, if you haven't picked it up, I recommend you read it. The writing is great, and the premise was fascinating, and it was something a little bit different from Mr. King. And yeah, there you go. That's my review. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please offer any feedback in the comments below. I'm always up for that. And if you've read it already, let me know what you thought, and share your thoughts with me. I'll always respond to those. But until next time, guys, see you later.